Frank Andrews. In a moment, we'll have more on the search for 6 people who may be at the bottom of a 200-foot-deep mine shaft in Schuylkill County. But first, some information on today's windy weather forecast from the backyard with our morning meteorologist, Noreen Clark. Good morning, Noreen.
Good morning, Frank. Top of the morning, everyone. It is a beautiful morning outside with rather mild temperatures and sunshine. In the backyard right now, it's 50 degrees, and we have a very nice day for May Day with plenty of sunshine, along with a few clouds and some gusty winds. I'll have the forecast for the first few days of the merry month of May in just a few minutes.
Thank you very much, Noreen. Right now, rescue crews are gathering again to try again to get a 4-wheel drive truck that may be at the bottom of a 200-foot deep mine shaft in the Schuylkill County community of Llewellyn. 6 people may be in that truck, may have been in the truck when it plunged into the shaft over the weekend. Now, Newswatch 16's Dan Fiorucci was in Schuylkill County throughout the night until the search was called off because of the darkness, and he brought back this report just a short time ago.
Kids are down there, maybe in that hole, maybe they're alive.
Maybe. There's a possibility.
Maybe they're dead, but there's nobody down there doing nothing about it.
For the friends and family of 6 missing people, it was a terribly difficult night. Up on Sharp Mountain, a car had been discovered 70 feet down in an abandoned mine shaft. But rescue efforts had been forced to a standstill because of darkness and because of the danger of the mine shaft caving in.
They're trying their best. They're trying to get up here, but in this darkness and these mine shafts up here, it's senseless at night. You'll never make it up.
Authorities decided to halt the rescue effort when this crane tipped over on treacherous mountain roads. The driver narrowly escaped serious injury. But still, friends and relatives of the presumed victims inside the mine shaft did not want to see the rescue operation come to a halt.
You don't want them to wait till morning.
No way!
As the first light comes up over the Pennsylvania hills, authorities will resume their rescue efforts. They intend to put a large steel cylinder down into the mine shaft and allow a man to descend down into the truck to check for signs of life. Dan Fiorucci, Newswatch 16, Schuylkill County.
Now, Newswatch 16 has crews on the scene again this morning. We'll have an update on the situation throughout the morning, including live telephone reports and
News station. Now, Frank Andrews, Marisa Bird, meteorologist Noreen Clark, and J. Christopher Spore. This is Newswatch 16 Midday.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Newswatch 16 Midday. Today is Tuesday. It's May 1st. And this is a view from Skycam 16 of the mine shaft where officials in Schuylkill County believe a truck with 6 people inside is trapped. Now, the shaft is about 200 feet deep, according to officials, and the 4-wheel drive truck is wedged about 70 feet down. The truck was found last night by searchers looking for the 6 Schuylkill County residents who have been missing since Saturday night. The mine shaft is high atop a wooded, rugged section of Llewellyn near Minersville in Schuylkill County. At this moment, rescuers are trying to get heavy equipment to the top of the mountain, trying to get to the truck where the 6 may be trapped. Now, the rescue efforts began this morning. Rescue crews met at the base of the mountain to plan a way to get that heavy equipment to the top of the mountain. Newswatch 16's Marisa Burke was there. She is in Skycam 16 right now over Schuylkill County with the latest. Marisa?
Frank, good afternoon. Yes, at this hour, the first crane is on its way up the mountain to install the pipes that'll be placed in the mine shaft to get to the trapped vehicle. There'll be 2 cranes installing the pipes this afternoon. Most of this morning, however, was spent clearing out the area so the cranes could get to the site. I was there earlier this morning when rescue efforts began. At the break of day, the recovery operation resumed. Several volunteers and family members of the 6 people who may be inside the trapped vehicle had kept a vigil throughout the night, while state authorities had kept the area blocked off. The task that faced rescue efforts at this point, getting the crane up the mountain as well as these huge metal pipes. The state police say the pipes will be inserted into the shaft in order to get to the vehicle.
It's about 10 foot in diameter, and you know, when the car apparently went over the 2 trees that were down, it just dropped straight down. It's down about 75 feet. We have no idea how far that might go after that, you know, and this is our concern. This is one of the concerns, to get the pipe down and get a cable hooked onto the car so it can't go any further.
One major concern, the road to the collapse is narrow, steep, and muddy after yesterday's rain, and that's causing delays in getting the heavy machinery and pipes to the mine shaft. Finding any survivors is questionable.
questionable at this point.
With the rain and everything we had, there's been water going in there also, so we really don't know what we're going to find. There is no sound of voice, or there is no way that we know if they're alive or not. No way even knowing if they're there, if that's their car.
Now, state police tell me many young people just ride around this mountain that we're flying over, either in dirt bikes or four-wheel drive vehicles. It's a very popular area because of the unmarked dirt roads. While state authorities aren't sure whether the hole had been there for a while, a few of the nearby residents who know this mountain pretty well tell me the mine shaft hole had been there for a while, but someone had placed trees to block off the opening in the ground. They also tell me this afternoon there are several mine shafts all over the mountain, but that drivers just knew where to take their vehicles. Marisa Berg, live from Skycam 16 over Schuylkill County.
Thank you, Marisa. Now, the 6 people who are missing and believed to be in that truck are identified as 22-year-old Sherry Blewis of Minersville, her brother Mark, his wife Connie Blewis, Stephen Meza of Llewellyn and his wife Patrice, and Thomas Frew of Minersville. As you can imagine, the families of those people are worried. Jewel Berta Savage is Sherry Blewis' grandmother. She says Saturday night her granddaughter and the other 6 people left their car at her house and headed up the hill to that wooded area where the mine shaft is.
They were here and they were going to go up the back because it's in the back there they had the parties there. So she left her car here with the groceries and purse in it, and she said she wouldn't be long. But when they didn't come back Sunday morning, I tried to alert everybody, but at first nobody had listened to me. So then Monday morning my daughter called me 6 o'clock and I said, Bonnie, get the state police and get out and get some trucks and everything. So her husband went out and I called anybody I knew that had a pickup truck, because almost everybody knows the roads out here. And they went out and everybody was looking, but they just went, everybody seemed to go right around this hole because you couldn't see right down. And then my granddaughter and somebody else went, and they went in the back of the hole and they could see down the hole, and that's when they found it.
Now, the 6 have been missing since Saturday night, and that's why officials believe that they are in that truck that's trapped in that mine shaft in Schuylkill County. As you can imagine, it has been a very long day, a very long night for family members. Many gathered at the top of the Schuylkill County mountain last night when they tried the rescue effort. Then when crews stopped work because a crane flipped over, tension mounted.
Or maybe in that hole, maybe they're alive. Maybe. There's a possibility. Maybe they're dead, but there's nobody down there doing nothing about it. And these don't,
And Joe Zone on sports. This is Newswatch 16.
Good evening. There are 2 major stories in tonight's news. One, the pullout of Piper Aircraft from its plant in Lock Haven. 650 workers will be losing their jobs. We'll have a full report from Clinton County in just a few moments.
The second major news story tonight centers around the old mine shaft in Schuylkill County. Our Newswatch 16 scenes and these shots just shot moments ago from Skycam 16 on a mountaintop near Llewellyn. We still do not have word on the fate of 6 occupants of a 4-wheel drive vehicle. Rescuers can see what they believe is the vehicle some 50 feet below in the collapsed mine shaft. Since noon, heavy equipment has been arriving at the hole, workmen struggling to get that gear up the steep, muddy, narrow paths on the mountain. A steel tube has been lowered into the hole. It will carry a rescuer in a cage down to the vehicle while protecting the worker from more cave-ins.
To give you an idea of exactly where the search is going on, our production people have put together this map for you. This is Schuylkill County. The search is centered near the town of Llewellyn, which is right outside of Minersville, south of Pottsville. Rescue crews are gathered about 2.5 miles up Silverton Mountain. It's very woody, very muddy, a popular place for 4-wheel drive vehicles and dirt bikes, but a tough area to search. Newswatch 16 has had crews out since last night as search teams try to free the truck from the mine shaft near Llewellyn. Here are the people who authorities believe are in that truck. They're all from that part of Schuylkill County. 22-year-old Sherry Blewis, her 21-year-old brother Mark, his 25-year-old wife Connie Blewis, 21-year-old Stephen Meza, his 16-year-old wife Patrice, and the driver of the truck, 25-year-old Thomas Frew. Last night a crane was brought in to try to pull out the truck. One rescuer was hurt when the 60-ton crane tipped over. 53-year-old Simon Larady of Centralia is hospitalized in satisfactory condition.
Now, as we've said, Newswatch 16 has had crews on the scene since last night. Early this morning, while we were all asleep, Newswatch 16's Bob Costantini was on his way to the search scene. He's been there all day, and Bob is live now above the rescue attempt with pilot Jack Llewellyn and Skycam 16. Bob, what else can you see, and what do you have to tell us?
Nolan, as you said earlier in the newscast, we have just learned that rescue workers have finally reached the Chevy Ranger truck, what they believe is a Chevy Ranger truck, about 70 feet below the surface, that is, inside that vertical mine shaft. For them, it's been a trying day, hoping to reach what they believe is the truck and trying to reach it inside in the four-wheel vehicle.
M16, the hole is about 12 feet in diameter. Officials think the wagon down inside went in nose first. Rescuers spent much of the morning trying to get a crane into the mountain. They used a bulldozer to clear a wide enough path. At the hole, officials mapped out their plans to see if the four-wheel drive vehicle down inside there is the one 6 missing people were riding in Saturday.
I want to get in and anchor the vehicle so it doesn't drop down on us. Once we achieve that, then we're going to try to get into the vehicle back to see if there's anyone in it.
Meantime, welders worked on a pipe 4 feet in diameter that would protect a searcher going into the hole.
One piece, 53 feet going down.
So it's only one pipe you're going to send down?
That's all, one pipe.
In the early afternoon, Joe Novak is lowered while dozens wait for word. But there's a problem. He can't quite reach the wagon.
Well, he saw half of the wagon. It's about half submerged in water. That's about it.
Is it upside down?
Yeah, it's upside down.
By mid-afternoon, rescuers removed the pipe from the hole. Apparently, it was 10 to 20 feet too short.
6 people will continue into the evening. Of course, our Dan Fiorucci is down there along the mountainside. He'll have complete details of what goes on tonight on Newswatch 16 at 11. Bob Costantini live with Skycam 16 over Lower Schuylkill County. Karen?
Thank you, Bob. Most of us can't even imagine what the families and friends are going through while rescue teams search for the 6 missing people feared trapped in that mine shaft. Newswatch 16's Marisa Burke talked with those who are waiting and hoping.
Expressions of anticipation, worry, and fear of the unknown masked the faces of several people in the little community of Llewellyn. As morning passed into the afternoon, more and more residents gathered together, comforting one another and staring up at that mountain where 2.5 miles away, a tragic accident apparently had taken place. Friends and relatives of the people who may be trapped in that vehicle have been continuing their vigil here at this Llewellyn fire station at the foot of the mountain. For Jewel Berta Savage, it's been a vigil since Saturday night when the 6 individuals disappeared. She's the grandmother of 3 out of those 6 young people who may be trapped in the vehicle.
They were here and they were going to go up the back because it's in the back there they had the parties there. So she left her car here with the groceries and purse in it, and she said she wouldn't be long. But when they didn't come back Sunday morning, I tried to alert everybody, but at first nobody had listened to me.
Other family members were at the site of the collapse for much of the day. Since Llewellyn is such a small community, the accident has touched several residents in a personal way.
I graduated with 2 of them, the Lewises, Sherry and Mark.
How do you know?
Good friends, every one of them.
How do you feel at this point?
Terrible.
The waiting, hoping, and praying by these residents.
Mark with his backyard forecast and Joe Zone on sports. This is the Newswatch 16 update.
Good evening. Search crews in Schuylkill County have found the bodies of 2 people tonight in that mine shaft near Llewellyn.
Crews have been working since yesterday to reach a 4-wheel drive vehicle that fell 90 feet down the mine shaft. It's believed 6 people were in the vehicle at that time, and the search for the other 4 victims continues tonight. Night Beat reporter Dan Fiorucci was in Schuylkill County tonight when the first victims were found.
Shortly after 4 o'clock, DER mine inspector Paul Hummel was lowered into the 70-foot deep shaft where the 4-wheel drive Chevy Blazer was lodged. Afterwards, officials announced Hummel was unable to open the doors of the truck or see any bodies inside.
Did he see anybody in the car? No, he did not. He says that everything looks muddy in there, and dirt and steamed up that he could not see nothing. He attempted to open the door, was not able to open it.
Then another mine inspector was lowered in to try to open the car doors and recover the bodies. And after an hour and a half of trying, DER made a grim announcement.
We located the body, a female. We're going down immediately to bring it out. Once we get that person out, then we will go back in again and attempt to locate the rest of them.
By dusk, the body of the woman had been pulled from the shaft, and coroners performed an examination in an ambulance to try to get a positive identification on the victim. The discovery of the woman's body makes authorities strongly suspect that this is the car with the 6 missing people from Pottsville. Rescue operations will continue, but at this point it's still not clear whether some of the bodies fell the full 350 feet down the mine shaft. Dan Fiorucci, Newswatch 16, Sharp Mountain.
And officials have now identified that first victim pulled from the mine shaft tonight. She is 25-year-old Connie Lewis, who lived in that area of Schuylkill County. The victim's husband and sister-in-law were also believed to be riding in the vehicle when it went down that shaft. Karen?
Residents say the area of Schuylkill County where the accident happened is a popular one for four-wheel drive vehicles. Newswatch 16's Marisa Burke reports there are plenty of risks on the mountain.
As seen from Skycam 16, the mine shaft is located near the top of what Llewellyn residents call Silverton Mountain. And people from all over come to see this mountain, or rather ride this mountain.
Many of the young people just ride around the mountains here like this, you know, and this is a pleasure trip, that's it. And they go up with these big vehicles and they just ride around.
Ride around on what's known as a four-wheelin' paradise. It's four-wheel drive vehicles like this one that people take up to the mountain to drive around. Four-wheel drive vehicles, dirt bikes, or motorcycles clutter the mountain, especially on the weekends. The terrain is rugged, and there are a number of unmarked dirt roads and a number of unseen mine shafts. 19-year-old Leonard Shistikoff may know this mountain like the back of his hand. He's been taking bikes up the mountain since he's been 7 years old. Is it safe?
To some extent. It really can be called safe. People that don't know the area, well, they're familiar with the area, it's just that they made a mistake. You never know what's undermined up there and what ain't. So really, you take a chance basically riding on them roads.
Shistikoff says motorists always take a chance on this mountain, sort of like a Russian roulette with mine shafts. Marisa Burke, Newswatch 16, Schuylkill County.
Coming up, I'll tell you about a vigil some people are keeping near Llewellyn.
Plus, we'll be telling you about the future of one town in our area that is losing a major employer. Those stories when we come back.
Celebrate Faye's Drugs grand opening all this week with Pennzoil 10W30 motor oil. A super low price, only 79 cents a quart. Pennsylvania's finest at Faye's.
It doesn't take a lot of huffing and puffing to get an Allstate Shape Up and Save discount.
There's one perfect for us mature types.
With Allstate's 55 and retired discounts, you could save 10% on home insurance and save on car insurance if you're 55.
Which is easy as 54, but takes a year longer.
And if you're retired.
Which means you don't work. I'll demonstrate.
Shape Up and Save.
It's a dirty job, but somebody's got to do it.
You're in good hands with Allstate.
Feeding, weeding, fighting bugs. You need ChemLawn. ChemLawn guarantees a thicker, greener lawn. In spring, we feed and weed. Guaranteed. In summer, we come back to spray for bugs. Guaranteed. In fall, we heavy feed. We'll keep working till you're satisfied or your money back. Guaranteed. ChemLawn keeps coming back for a thicker, greener lawn.
In the yellow pages.
Well, that does it. Yeah, we tested Maytag against the other top dishwashers. And? They're all good, but Maytag has more water action and every drop is filter clean. Maytag has more cleaning jets, 54, up to twice as many. Result, nobody gets your dishes cleaner than Maytag. Nobody. And hey, it's a Maytag.
I know what that means.
So do I, Dick. So do I.
Full-featured Maytag dishwasher now $30 less at Nackles Furniture and Flick Brothers Electric.
It's the second night that all attention in lower Schuylkill County is turned toward the search in that old mine shaft. Llewellyn is a small town. Most of the people living there know each other. I just got back from Llewellyn tonight and found many residents keeping a vigil while the search goes on. Hundreds of people gathered around the Llewellyn firehouse, just a couple miles from where searchers continued their efforts to find the 6 missing people on Silverton Mountain. It's a tense crowd. People want to know what's going on. More rumors circulate than facts. Still, their faces show worry and concern.
Just watching for them to bring the people up because we know them all. They used to be our neighbors.
If they needed any help, I would go down, too.
There's so many people here. There must be a couple hundred. Is it a close-knit community? Is everybody concerned about each other here?
Yeah, that's pretty much the same. With all these coal mining towns, everyone cares for everyone else.
20 after 8, a hush fell over the crowd as an ambulance rushed through carrying the first body. While most people are here out of concern or curiosity, there's one man, an old retired coal miner, who's here because he's angry. He says this never should have happened in the first place. Joe Hudock worked in the mines on Silverton Mountain for 40 years. He knows that old mine shaft is dangerous, and he can't understand why nothing's been done about it.
They've been doing with these funds, and tragedy like this here should never happen if they were watching for these here fools instead of putting a couple of logs across the road, you know, to stop somebody in the middle of the night.
Now, many of those people will spend the night waiting.
State police and volunteers worked throughout the day yesterday, searching for 3 men and 3 women whose car plunged through an opening in a mountain road into an abandoned mine. The 6 had been missing since Saturday night, after telling relatives they were going to have a party on this mountain. Searchers later discovered the car lodged 70 feet beneath the road. Rescue workers built a huge steel pipe down the opening, big enough to protect searchers from another cave-in while they went down to look for the bodies. Several attempts failed, but finally the body of a woman was brought up. Officials said hers was the only body in the car. Others may have fallen into the water in the mine shaft. The rescue workers continued their search throughout the night in hopes of finding the other 5. Riding the dirt roads of the mountains is a favorite pastime among the young people here, despite the dangers of the abandoned mines. And this tragedy...
WNEP 16, the news station. Now, Frank Andrews, Marisa Bird, meteorologist Noreen Clark, and J. Christopher Spores. This is Newswatch 16 Midday.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Newswatch 16 Midday. Today's Wednesday. It's the 2nd of May, and recovery efforts in Schuylkill County are running into trouble today. Officials in the Schuylkill County community of Llewellyn say there was a subsidence overnight in the mine shaft that you can see here from Skycam 16, where 5 people are believed to be dead. Now, the subsidence covered over part of a 4-wheel drive truck wedged 75 feet down in a 300-foot deep mine shaft. That truck fell into the hole Saturday, probably killing all 6 people inside. 1 body has been recovered, but efforts to get to the others are now on hold because of the subsidence. Now, the first body was found last night, just after dusk. Mine inspectors lowered a man into the shaft through a pipe, set in the shaft for the safety, and made the gruesome discovery.
We located a body, a female. We're going down immediately to bring it out. Once we get that person out, then we will go back in again and attempt to locate the rest of them.
Now, the woman was identified as 25-year-old Connie Blewis of Schuylkill County. She, along with her brother, his wife, and 3 other people, went riding in the 4-wheel drive truck Saturday night before they crashed into that Llewellyn mine shaft. Now, as we've said, crews met again this morning in Llewellyn trying to get to the other victims, but they have been running into problems. Newswatch 16's Marisa Burke was with the rescuers this morning, and she's live in Skycam right now over Schuylkill County to explain those difficulties. Marisa?
Frank, it was more of an assessment project this morning at the mine shaft than anything else. It's routine procedure that DER mine safety officials evaluate the stability of the land whenever a subsidence occurs. Now, soon after officials began testing this morning, there was word off the mountain, word that may hamper the recovery efforts. I was there this morning when the new developments were known.
While mine safety officials were evaluating the area around the mine shaft cave-in, state troopers were holding back relatives of the 6 from going up the mountain until there was word it was safe. Up on the mountain, another setback in the recovery mission had taken place, and these crews were assessing the damage. There was another subsidence near the present hole overnight, and it was causing pressure against the pipe that was installed yesterday.
If we determined that we had movement on it, then our next move is get the heavy gauge pipe that we have over there and drop it down, and then get down in through it to take a look again on the bottom and continue our recovery work.
But that recovery work has to be handled with extra caution now. Miners at the site say they hear rock falling below, a sign the ground is very unstable and unpredictable, and a fear there may be another collapse while men continue their search. But despite these odds, DER says recovery efforts will continue. DER officials are now reviewing other recovery possibilities. As Newswatch 16 told you earlier, crews have to keep in mind the unstable ground they're up against during this recovery mission. Now, flying over the mountain just a few moments ago, we saw a bulldozer clearing away more land around the collapse. A few of the coal miners up in the mountain this morning on the scene told me another possibility in descending even further was digging another shaft. After last night's subsidence, the vehicle cannot be seen now because of all the rock, and there's been no sign of other bodies.
General drowning as a result of the accident. We do have some other injuries that would tend to make us believe at this point that she was unconscious when she didn't hit the water.
Although search teams say there's not much hope of finding anyone alive, Newswatch 16's Marisa Burke says they're not giving up.
Before volunteer work crews headed back up the mountain to continue search efforts, the area around the collapse had to get the once-over. It's routine procedure that DER mine safety officials evaluate the stability of that land whenever a subsidence occurs. This is where state police have been blocking off the extra traffic going up the mountain, and that was the order of business this morning until mine officials had determined the safety of the area. Word was the area was safe, but there was also word that may have hampered recovery efforts. Before last night, the vehicle that carried those 6 occupants was visible in the mine shaft, but overnight another subsidence had occurred. Fallen rock and dirt was now covering the vehicle. Since the heavy rock was causing pressure against the original pipe that was installed for rescue men to get to the vehicle, another pipe was being brought in to reinforce the present one.
If we determined that we had movement on it, then our next move is get the heavy gauge pipe that we have over there and drop it down, and then get down in through it to take a look again on the bottom and continue our recovery work.
But that recovery work had to be handled with extra caution now. Miners were lowered into the shaft to assess last night's damage, while friends and family of the 5 still missing looked on with dismay. Other officials at the site say they hear rock falling below, a sign the ground is unstable, and a warning there may be yet another subsidence. But despite these odds, DER says recovery efforts will continue.
You know, I think we have other plans in mind until if we give up in the area that we're at, we've done everything there. Then at that time, with Al Roman, the construction
recovery efforts, more machinery like this well driller was getting into place. Right now I'm standing about 100 yards west of the mine collapse. Now, maps of the underground mine show that there's an air passageway on this side and an air passageway on the other side. As you can see on this map of the abandoned mine, the mine shaft where the collapse occurred is in the middle of your screen. The one airway is to the left of the shaft, the other to the right. On the right side, there's also an old slope. Now, mine officials believe the trapped vehicle is just above the area where the 4 airways intersect. Below that level, they feel the passageways are full of water. Work crews are now excavating land to locate those airways and the slope that went into the mine.
Once we locate that and do what work is required, we're going to attempt to enter the mine from that area. At the same time, that is located on the east side of the shaft. At the same time, on the west side of the shaft, we're going to put down a borehole so that we can start pumping the water down to lower the elevation.
One mine inspector says the bodies may be found 10 feet below the trapped vehicle. That's where they believe debris is blocking the shaft, so the bodies could not fall any further. I asked Viticelli why they waited until now to instate the latest plans.
Our first move was to get down a shaft. We felt it was the fastest way. We still don't know what conditions the airway is or the slope. We may start down in there and encounter falls or collapsed roof, and may have to change our plan.
Vicinelli says he still hasn't given up hope in finding signs of life down there, but protecting the men who may be going down into those airways now is his #1 concern at this point. Marisa Burke, Newswatch 16, Schuylkill County.
And we'll have another update on that situation a little bit later. Jay Chris.
Central Pennsylvania. This is WNEP 16, the news station. Now, Nolan Johannes, Karen Harge, Chief Meteorologist Tom Clark with his backyard forecast, and Joe Zone on sports. This is the Newswatch 16 update.
Good evening. It was a terrible and sobering sight. Earlier this evening, authorities pulled the wreckage of a Chevy Blazer from an abandoned mine shaft in Schuylkill County. Officials believe 6 people were riding in this truck on Saturday when it fell about 90 feet into the shaft near Llewellyn. The decision to remove the truck came this evening when rescue workers found the wreckage was blocking their search for 5 of the victims. The search for the 5 remaining bodies goes on tonight, and as Night Beat reporter Dan Fiorucci says, the rainy weather is making the recovery operation even more difficult.
From the start, it was a difficult rescue operation, and now it's being made even more difficult by a steady rain. It's a 2.5-mile trip up mountain roads to get to the abandoned mine shaft, and now those roads are even more muddy and treacherous. It was in just this kind of weather that a crane overturned on Monday night on these roads, and the rain and the mud made firefighters nervous. It does make it dangerous with heavy equipment.
Yeah, it does.
So far, everything okay today?
So far, anyway.
Up here at the mine shaft, despite the rain, work continued at a fast pace. It's difficult to see, but there is a backhoe on the other side there. It's digging through this mud because beneath the ground, there are air shafts. The hope is right now that they'll be able to get down to the air shaft and get access to the victims who are stuck in the mine tunnel. But because the air shaft was partially blocked by the Chevy Blazer truck that had fallen into the mine over the weekend, authorities decided they had to remove the truck in order for the recovery operation to continue. When the Blazer was removed, it was a chilling sight.
The miners felt that they would be more comfortable if we brought the automobile out of there. When we moved the pipe to take the pipe out, all the material that was around it went down, fell down also, so there was nothing anymore that was going to fall. So we made it, talked to the people, all of us got together and decided let's bring it out.
This will make it easier then.
Well, yeah. When we get to that area, we won't have a vehicle to crawl over or to looking under it for bodies or anything else.
Now that the truck has been removed, miners are reinserting steel piping back down into the shaft to try to reinforce it. They still have hours and hours of clearing of debris ahead, but the hope is that by morning, the recovery operation of the bodies will resume. Dan Fiorucci, Newswatch 16, Llewellyn.
Marisa Burke, meteorologist Noreen Clark, and J. Christopher Sports. This is Newswatch 16 this morning.
Good morning, everyone. 28.5 minutes now before 7, and this is Newswatch 16 this morning. Today is Friday. It's the 4th of May. I'm Frank Andrews. In a moment, we'll have more on those workers pulling that truck out of the mine shaft in Llewellyn. But first, a look at today's weather forecast from the backyard with our morning meteorologist, Noreen Clark. Good morning, Noreen.
Good morning, Frank. Top of the morning, everyone. After a night filled with rain, it's breezy and damp here in the backyard with 52 degrees, and we have a cloudy gray day with showers, drizzle, and fog lingering in the mountains. A thunderstorm is also possible. I'll have the forecast, including the weekend weather, in just a few minutes.
Thank you very much, Noreen. Workers in the Schuylkill County community of Llewellyn have pulled a beat-up, mangled Chevy Blazer truck from 70 feet within a mine shaft. Now, the truck in which 6 people were believed to be killed Saturday night when the truck fell into that shaft. We have more on the Llewellyn tragedy from Newswatch 16's Dan Fiorucci.
From the start, it was a difficult rescue operation, and now it's being made even more difficult by a steady rain. It's a 2.5-mile trip up mountain roads to get to the abandoned mine shaft, and now those roads are even more muddy and treacherous. It was in just this kind of weather that a crane overturned on Monday night on these roads, and the rain and the mud made firefighters nervous. It does make it dangerous with heavy equipment.
Yeah, it does.
So far,
far, everything okay today?
So far, anyway.
Up here at the mine shaft, despite the rain, work continued at a fast pace. It's difficult to see, but there is a backhoe on the other side there. It's digging through this mud because beneath the ground, there are air shafts. The hope is right now that they'll be able to get down to the air shaft and get access to the victims who are stuck in the mine tunnel. But because the air shaft was partially blocked by the Chevy Blazer truck that had fallen into the mine over the weekend, authorities decided they had to remove the truck in order for the recovery operation to continue. And when the Blazer was removed, it was a chilling sight.
The miners felt that they would be more comfortable if we brought the automobile out of there. When we moved the pipe to take the pipe out, all the material that was around it went down, fell down also, so there was nothing anymore that was going to fall. So we made it, talked to the people, all of us got together and decided, let's bring it out.
This will make it easier then?
Well, yeah. When we get to that area, we won't have a vehicle to crawl over or to looking under it for bodies or anything else.
As night fell on the Silverton area of Sharp Mountain, workers continued digging and trying to clear debris from the air tunnels and from the shaft. The hope is that the clearing will be completed this morning and that the search for victims can resume and wrap up as quickly as possible. Dan Fiorucci, Newswatch 16, Llewellyn.
Now, that truck was wedged about 70 feet down in that deep shaft, blocking crews from getting to 5 more bodies believed to be in that shaft. Now, as Dan explained today, crews will attempt to recover those bodies. Newswatch 16's Marisa Burke is in Llewellyn this morning, and she's on the phone with the latest. Good morning, Marisa. What's hoping to happen today?
Well, Frank, mine safety officials here this morning are confident they'll finish clearing debris from those air shafts, and that would mean being able to descend even further down the mine shaft to search for the victims. Now, officials from the State Department of Environmental Resources told Newswatch 16 yesterday they're pretty sure the bodies will be found about 10 to 12 feet below from where the vehicle was lodged in the mine shaft. They believe there is debris clogging the shaft at that point, preventing the bodies from falling any further. If rescue crews do not find the bodies there, it is possible they may have drifted into other passageways below the 80-foot mark. Now, crews will continue to pump out water in the lower depths of the mine today, just in case they have to go any deeper into the shaft with their recovery operation. As soon as all the debris is removed from those air passageways, mine experts can begin their exploratory work for the victims. A time frame when they'll begin this work, officials can't give a definite time, but they are estimating crews to begin their search sometime today. And I think any kind of time...
The news station. Now, Frank Andrews, Marisa Burke, meteorologist Noreen Clark, and J. Christopher Sports. This is Newswatch 16 Midday.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Newswatch 16 Midday. Today is Friday. It's May 4th. A second body has just been found in that mine shaft in the Schuylkill County community of Llewellyn. Now, the discovery was made just a short time ago. Newswatch 16's Bob Costantini is in Schuylkill County right now, and he's on the phone with the latest. Bob, can you tell us what happened?
Frank, just a few moments ago, the body of a female was pulled from the shafts down inside the mountain here in Llewellyn. There has been no identification of the female, but it could be one of two, Sherry Bliss or Patrice Medza, and the local folks around here are telling me they believe it is Patrice Medza, but of course we've had no official confirmation about the body that was pulled out, but we do know one female has been pulled out, and rescue workers are anticipating perhaps finding other bodies down inside the mountain, and we'll have a complete report tonight on Newswatch 16 at 6 o'clock.
All right, thank you for that report, Bob. We appreciate the update. It was late last night that officials in Llewellyn found that truck and pulled the truck out of the mine shaft. It was a huge crane that pulled the mangled Chevy Blazer from the pit last night so that this morning workers could put all their efforts into recovering those bodies. As we said just a few moments ago, one more body was found. The first was found on Tuesday night. Officials say 6 people died in the truck Saturday night when it fell into an old abandoned mine shaft on Silverton Mountain in Schuylkill County. And of course, right now officials, as we said, are putting all their effort into getting to the bodies, the remaining 4 bodies. But again, subsidence is a problem as dirt and mud continue to fall into that shaft. As Newswatch 16's Marisa Burke reports now from Llewellyn, workers spent most of the morning trying to shore up the walls of that mine shaft.
Just north of this mountain, the picture looks serene as patches of morning fog blanketed the little community of Llewellyn below. But the sounds of generators, chainsaws, and machine engines here on the mountain broke that peaceful silence, noise that served as a reminder that the end of the recovery operation was far from over. This morning, miners continued to place supports and clear out debris from those air passageways, a time-consuming process. I talked to some of the miners who were down there, and they told me they are making progress, but it's moving very slowly. There were 4 miners working down in the air shaft this morning. They said they were about 20 feet away from where the trapped vehicle was lodged.
That last 20 feet, there's only a 2-foot opening. The guy crawled through that and took a look in the area where the old shaft came down. We wouldn't permit him to get out and walk on there because we want to build a platform so he can go out on it.
Vicinelli feels the 5 other bodies may be found several feet below that area where there's other debris blocking the mine shaft. Meanwhile, crews desperately work toward reaching that point, an area that may seem so close, yet so far. Marisa Burke, Newswatch 16, Schuylkill County.
And of course, as we said just a few moments ago, a second body was recovered. In other news today, officials from the Office of Surface Mining are planning a trip to Trenton.
Is WNEP 16, the news station. Now, Nolan Johannes, Karen Hart, pilot Jack Llewellyn in Skycam 16, Chief Meteorologist Tom Clark, and Joe Zone on sports. This is Newswatch 16.
Good evening. Searchers in Schuylkill County are now down to 2 missing in an old mine shaft.
Of the 6 people from the Llewellyn area who are believed to have crashed down the open shaft last Saturday in a 4-wheel drive vehicle, 4 bodies have now been recovered, 3 of them this afternoon. Newswatch 16's Bob Constantini was on the mountain when the latest discoveries were made.
The first body taken out today was a female, though no official ID was given. Friends and relatives said the body was that of 16-year-old Patrice Medza. Within a couple hours, 2 more ambulances arrived, then left, with the recovered body of a male, followed by the body believed to be that of Sherry Blewis. Miners found the bodies in water just below where 2 air shafts meet the down shaft. After going through one air shaft, they used a ladder to get down into the water.
Just using a long pole and getting a hold of their clothing and pulling them up by their clothing.
You aren't able to reach them by hand?
No, we're working off a ladder and just reaching down into the water with a long pole. They put a hook on it and getting a hold of their clothing.
Are they completely submerged?
Yes.
One body was recovered last Tuesday. 2 of the victims, still down inside the shaft, are believed to be underwater also. But along with water, debris is hampering efforts to locate those 2 bodies.
It's all piled up there, about 4 feet under the water, 6 feet under the water. And we're reaching down in between the debris in front.
Late in the afternoon, officials stopped all other work on the recovery.
Unable to find the last 2 bodies believed still in the water down inside the main shaft, officials are thinking about putting a pump down that main shaft where the truck went down and pumping the water out. Bob Constantini, Newswatch 16, Llewellyn.
Rescue workers are right now pumping water out of the shaft. Now, once the water level is lower, they hope to be able to get the bodies...
Northeastern and Central Pennsylvania. This is WNEP 16, the news station. Now, Nolan Johannes, Karen Hart, Chief Meteorologist Tom Clark with his backyard forecast, and Joe Zone on sports. This is the Newswatch 16 update.
Good evening. There's hope tonight that the recovery operation at a Schuylkill County mine shaft could be over by morning.
Search crews have spotted the 2 remaining bodies in the shaft in Llewellyn, but it could be hours before those victims are brought to the surface. 3 bodies were recovered earlier today. Another victim was pulled from the mine shaft on Tuesday. It was last weekend when 6 people in a Chevy Blazer fell into the hole. Nightbeat reporter Dan Fiorucci has been in Llewellyn all night, and he has the Slate report.
What you are looking at is the end of the recovery operation here in Schuylkill County. Within the past few hours, miners have discovered the remains of the 2 final victims who are believed to be in that mine shaft, and the hope is right now that by midnight perhaps this whole affair will be over. At the moment, the difficulty is debris and water. All night long, miners have been pumping 500,000 gallons of water out of the mine shaft. By pumping the water out, they were able to look deeper into the mine, and that is how they were able to discover the remains of the 2 last victims. At this point, what remains is to move debris out of the way, debris that is blocking the path of the rescue workers, and then recover the bodies. And after a week of trying, it appears that this operation will be coming to a close. All in all, the officials here say that it cost about $500,000 to conduct this operation this week, but more importantly, the waiting period for the families who have gone through a terrible ordeal over the past 6 days will be coming to an end as well. Dan Fiorucci, Newswatch 16, Llewellyn.
A state study of another Schuylkill County area with old abandoned coal mines.
His largest television news organization. This is Newswatch 16 Weekend.
The last 2 bodies have been pulled from an abandoned mine shaft in Schuylkill County.
But rescue crews, volunteers, and families thought the recovery operation would have been over shortly after those bodies were discovered last night. But as Newswatch 16's Marisa Burke now reports from Llewellyn, there were some more problems today.
The workers who have been on this mountain for nearly a week now were hoping this morning would have marked the end to a difficult rescue operation, that of finding the bodies of 21-year-old Mark Lewis and 22-year-old Thomas Frew. But the operation had suffered a severe setback late last evening.
Well, we were getting very close last evening. In fact, we did see one body last evening and felt that if we lowered the pump a little more, we could get out very safely. And what developed then was we had a failure in our discharge hose, and the hose broke because of the high head of water, and we had to get new hose, and this all took time, and then we lost approximately 5 feet of elevation on the water.
The recovery operation was at a standstill for several hours this morning until these heavy pressure hoses were brought in. Water in the mine shaft was being pumped out since yesterday, so workers could clearly retrieve the bodies of the last 2 victims. Marisa Burke, Newswatch 16.
Central Pennsylvania. This is WNEP 16, the news station. Now, from the area's largest television news organization, this is Newswatch 16 Weekend.
Good evening, everyone. The search for 6 accident victims has finally ended at a mine shaft in Schuylkill County.
Newswatch 16's Dan Fiorucci was there as rescue crews wrapped up a week-long effort in Llewellyn.
The beginning of the end came just after 4 o'clock. That's when miners recovered the bodies of the last 2 victims.
Pulling bodies out like that is something you don't want to do every day, you know. This is hope that I never have to do this again, you know.
If I were to ever think of a terrible nightmare, I think it'd be that kind of work that you all been doing.
Yeah, this ain't the kind of work you ever want to do the second time, you know.
The main enemy, the thing that really held up the recovery process toward the end, was water. Authorities pumped some 2 million gallons of water from the mine shaft in an effort to recover the 2 remaining victims some 70 feet beneath the earth. It was a long, difficult, and frustrating process.
Yeah, we had a little trouble with the pump, and when we finally got that straightened out, then things went fairly good.
As soon as the last 2 victims were brought out, cleanup operations were begun at the site. And officials said that before they were done, they'd fill in the shaft so the same type of accident won't happen again here.
We're going to sit down and determine the method of sealing it so we don't have any future problems. And before the equipment leaves here, it will be sealed.
Meanwhile, the head of DER was talking about sealing mine shafts all over Pennsylvania.
This figure, but we've done an inventory, and if we were to reclaim all the strip mines that are left scarring the land, if we were to secure all these shafts which are left abandoned, if we were to put out all the mine fires, and let's take Centralia out of that because that's 600 million right there, we're talking seeking over $10 billion.
Just for Pennsylvania?
Just for Pennsylvania. Now, just for...
D. Benedictus flies to Washington Monday to seek federal money for the problem. And so 1 week after 6 people lost their lives here, this mountain is finally no longer a tomb. And there are hopes tonight that this unspeakable tragedy will help spur the action which will prevent something like this from ever happening again. Dan Fiorucci, Newswatch 16, Sharp Mountain.